Hi, Wyatt White here. I'm at Artbeads, and I have the pleasure of showing you one of the tools that I invented. This is the 3D Bracelet Jig, and it comes with pegs and little holders. It also now comes with these fabulous things that help keep all the pegs in one place. So we're going to dump some out, or actually we're going to dump all of them out so that we can start putting pegs in. So what I plan to make today actually answers one of the questions that one of the Artbeads customers had. Can you make a bracelet that requires, oh, sorry, wrong one. Could fibers be used to make a bracelet? Fibers can be used, but we also need wire. So the wire needs to be the structure of the bracelet. I haven't quite come to an idea on just using this for a cuff bracelet. But if I come up with something, I'll let you know. But we're going to be using this with a wire frame to make a cuff bracelet. Well, the other question, of course, is the first one that I tried to answer. Can you make a bracelet that requires a clasp with the jig? Yes, you can actually make a bracelet that has its own clasp within it. And I'll show you how to do that after we do this, the other idea with the fabric first. To make a clasp for the cuff. Yeah, that was the other question. Bracelet sizes. You can adjust the sizes of bracelets in many different ways on this jig. The easiest way is just to, with regard to cuffs, you just decide on the distance that's between the two ends of the cuff. So if you need it larger, you can just come closer. And if you need it smaller, you just have it be farther apart. I find that having 4 to 5 holes in this, separating from this side to this side. Let me just show you. So I'm going to need, we're also going to be using Artsy Wire, artistic Artsy Wire, which has some really beautiful soft tone, blotchy, artsy coloring on it. And I'll show you that. I might as well rip one of these open. It's a fun thing to do, and you'll notice that they have crimps to go with them. So you can kind of see the color of the wire is going to go very nicely with this purple or the purple and blue, and may have to go with both of them. It would be great to have a wire straightener, but I can straighten with this. It's easier to straighten it with a wire straightener, but we can use it that way. All right, so now we're going to start putting the pegs in. So I like to have enough distance so that I can put one of these on one end where I'm going to make the crimp. But a trick is to be able to put one on the other side as well. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to want this to be at least 2 of these apart. So, and what I'm talking about is there'll be a hole here, and then this is going to go there. Okay? So once you get those on, then I'm going to place these little rubber stoppers on the underside so that you don't have to hold them. And you can be wrapping the wire. Now, if I follow my lead, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm going to put this over here. So that's going to be the opening in my cuff bracelet. So I'll put 2 of those there as well. And we were just chatting before on what I was going to do. So what I want to do is I want to be able to either tie or loop these through as I go around, but I have to make the bracelet first before I can do any of the looping. So these 2 rows of holes are going to be what I can use. And then these others would either make a loop on the outside or the inside edge of where the wire will go. So it's probably going to be easiest to just place, I need to count, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops, I missed it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I can put loops at easily every 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are just probably going to be to keep me working on what's going to be the center and how I'm gonna work that. So I'll go up from each side 4 and see what I have left over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this tool comes with 20 of the pegs and the holders. So we're gonna be able to get exactly what we need out of these. So far I'm here, and if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that'll leave me a center, which is going to be good. So you could adjust it one more so that you'd have 2 across the top, but I think this is going to work just fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got my center section, which is going to be this peg. Go ahead and put the other ones in. Actually, I'm going to be off by about 1, which will be fine. All right, so now I've got insides and outsides where I can put loops. So first off, I need to finish getting this wire ready and kind of judge how much wire I'm going to need. Find the center. I think I'm going to just use most of this wire. So the first one, I have to kind of be careful because this is going to be a crimp that I'm going to use that I'm actually not going to crimp. And I'll show you how to crimp in just a little while. So we've got to get this out here. It's always better to have more wire than too little wire. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take an inside loop. So when I do an inside loop, I want this to be tight, but I want to be able to just use the tool to do the wrapping wherever possible. So I'm just going to try to hold the wire and then let this do the wrapping. Okay, so I've got the inside loop here. Looks like I'm going to have plenty of wire. So basically I started out here. I've got my crimp here. That's going to be a red herring crimp. So that crimp will be crimped, but it's not going to actually be holding the ends of the wire together because there aren't 2 ends. So we'll come back around, come up here to the top. Okay, so up here, I'd like to have an outside loop, but it's going to be a little off center. So I think that I will just do another inside loop right in the center. So we're going to do inside loops instead of outside loops. So I can remove that one and move this one to the center. And do another inside loop. I think it'll turn out to be a little bit nicer anyway. So we're going to inside loop there. Another inside loop there. And then come down to this one. And 2 more inside loops. Okay, now we're back to the other side. And I wasted quite a bit of wire, but it's better to have more wire than not enough wire by the time you get to the end. So you just put those wires across there, and then very carefully, you can cut both wires at with a single cut. Then I'm going to want to make 2 flush ends. And they don't have to be exactly perfect here. but you do want them pretty close. All right, so I've got the wire form done. Makes a few little adjustments here and there to get the wires nice and straight coming off these curves. Okay, so now I would put one of these on, dump all the rest of my ones except for the one on the floor. And now you just start pulling these out and throwing the part that you've pulled out of the end into the center. And then all of your stuff is right back into the container of the 3D bracelet jig. Put this on and you don't lose your parts. So now comes the crimping. So I'm going to be using the Mighty Crimp tool. It has a tooth in the back, and that tooth, when you measure it and put it on here properly, should be exactly about halfway through this tube. When you make a compression, such as this, so when I say halfway, what I do is I hold this. At this point, I want the crimp coming up from the bottom. So I'm going to place the crimp into the tool in the back jaw that has the tooth, and the tooth is pointing up because I want it as invisible as I can. Then I'm going to make a measurement here. So I'm going to use my thumbnail to hold to where the wire is going to stick inside of that crimp halfway, half the distance on the inside of the crimp. So just replace it into here, make one compression, and you see that tooth mark right there? So you have a piece of the end of the wire that has not been crimped, so it stays large. Then you have the metal of the crimp being forced down into the diameter of the wire to hold it. It's called cold connection. That cold connection will never come out of there. Well, I don't know about never. You could chop it up or run over it with a car or something like that that might cause a problem. So then you have to push the other side in, making sure it's nice and tight. And then you want to make sure that your tooth is pointing up. Make the same distance from the very end, about 1.5 millimeters, and take that and make one good crimp. So now you're set. Now here's our fake one over here. We just have to do the same thing there, and we've made a match. Here you don't have to be quite as careful because you're not really holding two pieces of wire together on the inside. Okay, so then now that's sort of matching. Now you just need to kind of bend this down a little bit more because it came on it was made on a round jig, and smaller bends always better than bigger bends. All right, so we've got this sort of in shape. So now my thought was to take this material, which is so beautiful, and possibly bring it across here. And then maybe I'll take it and wrap it and do some other things to use one side down one side of the ribbon to go down one side, and the other side of the ribbon to go down the other. Just use up the whole piece by tightening this around here, and hopefully be able to tie it off as soon as the ribbon narrows a little bit. Might be good to add some beads in here that would move around as well. But for now, we'll just tie it off and see what we think. I think this is what happens when a wire wrapper tries to go boho. Not quite coming out how I was envisioning it, but hopefully you can get a little bit of an idea of how one might or might not use this ribbon on here. It's not bad, but it's not, I think this would be a work in progress, and be able to fine-tune what you really want to do with something like this. So to answer the person's question is, yes, you can work the material that way. Then you could go back, and if you got it to where you wanted it, or when you got it to where you wanted it, you could come in with the bent chain nose pliers and squeeze the wire to be able to hold the material in place. So that was one of the ideas of being able to use fiber with this particular bracelet. Now, someone also asked if you can make a clasp with the bracelet, and the answer to that, of course, is yes. It's basically the same start, only what we'll do is we'll leave one of these a little bit longer on one side and then bend it through. So, cuff bracelet. Get some more wire. This time we'll go a little narrower. On one side and a little wider on the other. Let's see, that needs to be more like here. It's always a good idea also to, once you put your design together on the jig, is to take some graph paper and put holes or mark the holes in a piece of graph paper so that you can redo or remake the same size or the same design each time. So I'm going to So the wire gauge that I'm using, the Artsy Wire comes in only one gauge, it's 14 gauge. And it is a great gauge for making these types of bracelets. Okay, so I believe that I've got this ready. No, I'm going to need one more peg. Okay, now I'm ready to straighten the wire. And I can use less wire this time because I'm not going to have any loops in the body of the piece. And I want to start on this side so that I won't have a crimp here. The crimp will be over here. So I'm going to bring this up through here and then out in that direction. So up here and out in that direction. What this length, this extra length does here is it gives me enough wire to be able to bend back into a double hook so that it can hook through the other side. So here we're making the bracelet that will have a clasp on it from the question from the customer. So we're going to come here. Once we're here, this is going to go to the left. Camera left. Or no, that would be my left. And then this one will go the other opposite direction. Sometimes you need to grasp the wire and force it to do what you want. Okay, we can come in and cut, just like we did before. And trim it. And this should be fairly easy to get out without doing too much. Put the pegs and the holders away every time. That way you'll have them the next time you want to use it. And by now you're beginning to get the drill. The drill being, of course, how to crimp. So again, we want the tooth to be on the bottom, measured halfway, with about 1.5 millimeters sticking out on the left side here. One good compress. Make sure that you have the tooth marks. Make sure you get the other side in there, all the way in. Hold it together. Come back here. Get your sizing just right and crimp that. So now I'm just going to kind of make the bracelet and then we have to bend this out in that direction just slightly. You got to go from both sides to get it to work properly, and then we're gonna so what we're doing is we're forming a wide hook that will become our clasp for this bracelet form. Carefully get the wire form to be to the size and the shape of a wrist, and then it hooks together just like so, giving you a nice clasp on a cuff bracelet. So then you could do many different things here. You can string different types of beads. You can wire wrap them from side to side. All kinds of things you can do once you've got this the bracelet form finished. You can even bend these together closer, so you could then wire wrap single beads across the front and still have the wide base. So the 3D bracelet jig can do a whole bunch of different things. Cuffs, bangle bracelets, all different types of things. The artistic wire, Artsy Wire, comes with custom colored crimps that work very well with the wire, and with just a few tools and some other things and possibly better ideas for this type of fabric use. I think that you can have a whole lot of fun and also make some beautiful jewelry. So I will see you soon.